Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Federico Talks Watches. First off, let me apologize. I missed an upload day a couple days ago. I'm really sorry. I had some stuff going on that I had to take care of, and I really tried to shoot to release something, especially after all the support and reaching 10,000. By the way, thank you. But I just couldn't make it fit my schedule, so I really do apologize. However, today we're back, and we're back with a bang. Because today I want to talk about one of my favorite type of watch complications, and that is the Poetic Haute Horlogerie complication. And before we get started, customary wristwatch check. Today I'm wearing the Omega Speedmaster Professional Manual Wind, and it's on a distressed strap. I know it's leather, however, I spent most of the day inside today, so sweating shouldn't be a problem, so I broke one of my rules. And it is a complication. I don't own one of these Poetic complications, not yet at least. But I figured I'd want to wear something a little bit more complicated for this video. So, Poetic complications. That is something that Van Cleef and Arpels, which is not a very well-known watchmaker, they're much more a jewelry maker, a famous jeweler from Paris that has started to get into watches, and they make fantastic pieces, but that is a term that they coined, the Poetic complication, and it is a term that I like very much. And if anybody were to create something like that, it would be Van Cleef, simply because a Poetic complication is a watch complication that does something but isn't necessarily related to telling time. So it's something extra. It's an extra action that isn't necessarily related to anything horological. And it's usually something quite whimsical and fun, and of course very high-end. So it would make sense that a company like Van Cleef would coin such a term. And I think it fits a lot of watches. Well, actually, correction, not a lot of watches, but it fits a few watches, Van Cleef and otherwise, in the market today. And it's something I felt like you guys might be interested in, or maybe you don't even know what these type of watches are, and I would like to maybe show you, because it's something that I've certainly fallen in love with, and it's a concept that I really enjoy. So, Poetic complication. As I said, it is a watch complication, usually on the very high-end side of the scale, but not always, that does something on the dial. You know, it does an action, but not particularly related to timekeeping. So a great example, and we're going to start with Van Cleef and Arpels, is the Van Cleef and Arpels two lovers on a bridge. Now, to appreciate most of these, I'd have to insert video clips to show you how they work, but I'm a little worried about the copyright issue. So I'm just going to show you a few pictures and maybe look these up to see how they work. But the two lovers on a bridge, it's a very complicated dial, and as you can see, there's a bridge, pop-up picture right here, and two people at the end. And the complication is that as time passes, they get closer and closer and closer, they kiss, and they move back. Essentially, it's done with a retrograde function, but it has nothing to do with telling time. It's just an extra bit of whimsy. They did it for artistic purposes, and they did it because they can. Another beautiful Van Cleef example is the Van Cleef 7 Years in a Balloon. And I'll pop up another picture here. As you can see, as time moves forward, the hot air balloon moves. Once again, this is just a beautiful thing to witness, just like looking at the back of a movement. Not particularly useful, but it's about the artistry. Probably one of the most famous Poetic complications out there is the Ulysse Nardin erotic complication. Blancpain makes one as well. And that is, now guys, this is maybe not safe for work, but that is people fornicating or, making sexual movements as time progresses on the dial of the watch, either as time progresses or through the action of a button. And this definitely isn't used for telling time, but it's just a very cool piece of art. And I think it shows the imagination of these Swiss watch brands that occasionally can be pretty stale. One of my favorites is actually the Franck Muller Vegas. Now this is a standard Franck Muller watch, in a curvex shape, and in the middle it's got like a blackjack board, and you press the crown, there's a little pusher, I'll put a picture up here, and as you press it, a little arrow in the middle spins, and when you let go, it lands on a number. So essentially, you can play blackjack on the dial of your watch. Not particularly useful, but very, very cool. Then Franck Muller also makes a crazy hour, which is essentially a jump hour mechanism, but not using discs, using hands. As you can see by the dial of the watch, it isn't where the hands indicate physically what time it is, but rather it is the time that the numeral says on the dial. Wow, that's a lot more complicated to explain than I thought. But anyway, guys, it is not where the hands are pointing, but rather the number to which the hands are pointing to that is the exact time. And this gambling motif has actually gone through a few watchmakers, such as Christophe Claret. They make the blackjack watch or the 21 watch, where on the side of the case you can essentially play blackjack. And another lower end brand, and this is rare because most of these complications are significantly higher end, but one of these lower end brands relatively, about $7,000-$8,000 price range, even a little bit less, I think maybe even 5 or 6, is the azimut, which you can also play blackjack on. These types of complications essentially aren't very useful for telling time, but something like a moon phase maybe, I consider to be a poetic complication because really, who checks the phases of the moon at all, if even on a watch? But does it really count? I'm not sure. Personally, I think it does, because it is rather poetic and it stands for something extra. But the beauty of this is what I consider to be true luxury. It's almost excess. It's more than telling time. These are features that you absolutely do not need, but they're special. They're there for beauty, they're there for pleasure. And that's what luxury is, isn't it? Something excessive, something you may not necessarily need, something extra, you know? So I think poetic complications are the ultimate in high-end luxury. And it's something I definitely want to own, if not for the very least for the artistry of it. In an industry that is so often ridiculed for lack of innovation, I think Van Cleef and some of these other brands need to be given a pat on the back, because this is some really, really cool stuff, and absolutely something you don't see every day. In fact, even when I was selling watches, these were always special order pieces. These were never something that people actually had in stock, usually due to the price. I think most poetic complications are definitely in the 5, if not the 6 figures. Something that most people can't obtain, but I think something most horological aficionados can certainly appreciate. Not to mention, most of these have very, very ornate dials, and I think just the different look, just the fact that you can look down at your watch and it's more than just a chronograph, or more than just a black dial or a white dial, it's a little extra bit of pizzazz, is something that really, really excites me. Maybe I'm just getting a little bored of the everyday watch, and you know what? That's something that I hope never happens, but I am around these things a lot. I don't want to lose my passion, but it's things like these poetic complications that bring the spark right back. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for sticking around for another episode of Federico Talks Watches, and thank you for all the continued support. I will announce the winner of the giveaway in probably a week. So a week from today, next Thursday. But until then, please don't forget to subscribe and like, and leave a comment below. What's your favorite poetic complication? Once again, I'll catch you guys in the next episode of Federico Talks Watches, and take care.